Hi everyone, it's Jack here from Esports Live. Sorry to crash the podcast. A quick thank you to you all for all your support so far. We hope you like what you're hearing, even if our advice is absolute nonsense. Make sure you subscribe to our videocast on YouTube and Twitch channels, as well as follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, or if you prefer the podcast, subscribe on Spotify and Apple. Search Esports Live now on any of the platforms to get involved. We've got some exciting things happening in the background. Get ready for the Euros and the Fantasy Premier League season 21-22. Get involved now, don't miss out, and enjoy the pod.
Fantasy managers, welcome back to another edition of the FPL Addicts and Esports Live Fantasy Weekly Videocast and Podcast. Today we'll be reviewing Game Week 31 and previewing 32, and with me as always are the usual suspects. We've got Matt from FPL Addicts. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks, Elliot. Looking forward to another week of FPL, double game week, so it's always exciting times.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of Spurs discussion today, I'd imagine, with them having the two games. So I'm sure a lot of people will be getting in the Harry Kanes and the Sons, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. Jack, how are you doing, mate?
Very good. I see the Guru didn't mention the United victory versus Spurs. He just missed it out very quietly. So yeah, good to be back. Obviously wasn't on last week, so I missed fantasy football with you boys, but good to be back and hopefully give the Guru a bit of a banter about the victory.
I'm sure we'll be talking about that a little bit on the podcast today. And to cap it off today, we've got Statman Dave, familiar face who's popped up a little bit recently. How are you doing, Dave?
Doing all right, guys.
That's what we like to hear, mate. So, Game Week 31 was a massive, massive week. There were some massive games, some shocking results. We'll move on to the first one. Matt, we'll ask you. Leeds 2, Man City 1. What a performance from Stuart Dallas.
Unreal. I knew that the City assets were going to be rotated, and Dallas was on my bench, and it was dreamland when he grabbed that second. When he grabbed the first goal, but when he grabbed that second one, it was dreamland. And yeah, really happy for everyone that owned him as well, and also really happy for Leeds, to be fair, because City made a lot of changes, and I think they had that coming. So yeah, unbelievable stuff that is.
Yeah, they definitely underestimated Bielsa's side, and Dallas definitely helped a lot of FPL managers coming off the bench. So he's definitely been the saviour of a lot of people's weeks. Jack, you alluded to it a couple of minutes ago with Man United 3, Spurs 1, but just how important of a victory was that for Man United, and what a performance from Mason Greenwood?
Yeah, listen, Mason Greenwood, he was a man on fire last year, and he's been a bit quiet this year. So it was nice to see him pulling out a few stops in there, getting the assist and the goal. Great to have Cavani back in as well. I wish he was 30 years old or 25 years old, because imagine having him for a few more years in the league. He'd definitely fire us back up. But it's a good win, double, kind of a triple kind of victory here. One over Mourinho, one over the Guru, and it pulls us back into contention for the league. Imagine if City slipping up. It's
been a perfect week almost for you then, Jack, hasn't it? That's not too bad at all, mate. And then Dave, we'll ask you about Arsenal 3, Sheffield United 0. Lacazette with 2 goals. Is he one that's going to be on your radar after scoring twice again this morning in the Europa League as well?
Absolutely. I said to you guys before we came on about making some changes in my team this week, and Lacazette's certainly one of those that I've brought in. I've had him in my team at a couple of stages during the season, but he hasn't sort of stayed in there permanently. But yeah, after that performance, he's going to be shaping up in the forward line next to Kane for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of FPL managers will be making their move on him. But we'll look forward towards Game Week 32 now in terms of the fixtures. We've got Spurs-Everton early on Saturday morning, which means the deadline Melbourne time is 3:30 a.m. That's a 5 o'clock kickoff. And then we move over to St James's Park, where it's West Ham, Newcastle in a massive game for both teams there in terms of relegation and top 4. We then move to Wolves, Sheffield United on the Sunday, Arsenal, Fulham, Manchester United play Burnley, Leeds host Liverpool, Chelsea play Brighton, Spurs play Southampton, Aston Villa play Man City, and to cap off the week, Leicester play West Brom. So what we'll do now is we'll go back to Game Week 32 again, and we'll review our teams and how we went this week. And as we were saying before, we will start with mine, and 64 points this week. It didn't look like a bad score until Stuart Dallas came on for Ruben Diaz for me, who absolutely rocketed my week. up the mini league. So Edouard Mendy, again, not happy with him. Since I've got him in, Chelsea just haven't been the same defensively. They've not been brilliant, but look at the man there. 17 points from Stuart Dallas. Absolutely unreal. Stones with the 1 point. Don't mind that. Cresswell, unfortunately, with none, and that yellow arrow, unfortunately, as well. Son popping back up. Lingard, a man on fire. He's definitely going to be a lot of people's captain choice this week with Newcastle away, I would imagine. Fernandez doing nothing, unfortunately. Neto picking up an injury, which was really frustrating for me because he was my transfer in this week and he's been straight back out the team now. Salah, who was my captain for this week, and it was actually a little bit of a curveball captain in Salah this week. I think a lot of people called me crazy for it. I don't know why, I just had a feeling, and he supplied with the goal, which was lucky. And then Kane with nothing, then Bamford with the assist, gave me 64 points this week, which wasn't a bad score at all, and it moved me up the mini league a fair bit. So I'm not annoyed about that by any stretch of the imagination.
Did you bring Salah in this week, Elliot, or was he already in?
No,
sorry.
I think I've had Salah since game week 1, and I've never moved off of him.
Right, okay, yes, you've stuck with him. One of the very few. Have you not been tempted to take him out for Jota?
I was going to take him out for Jota the other week, and I got Edouard Mendy in instead of Jota, which really frustrated me. But yeah, it's all right because I was just glad when his goal went in. I was relieved because seeing people like Lingard and stuff doing the business, I was like, oh, that's going to be a bad one if it doesn't pull off. But thankfully for me, it did. And we'll move on to the Guru now with 58 points, which again is a brilliant score for this game week. The average was 41 points, so well above the average. Matt, how do you think you went?
Yeah, not too bad. Obviously, we discussed Stuart Dallas, who was just phenomenal. He actually come off my bench, so I got a bit lucky as well. But I used the Elliot Craig tactic of putting my midfielder as the first sub and the defender as the second sub. So then I think it means your formation can't quite change. I can't quite remember what that tactic was. You've spoke about it earlier on in pods before, but it worked out. Che Adams is pretty poor. I'm disappointed with that, but he's someone that I'm going to get rid of this week. Harry Kane didn't deliver. Son back in the goals, which is nice. My transfers worked though. I bring Salah in, and I took a hit. Obviously, don't normally like taking hits, but I bring in Salah. For Liverpool's run of fixtures, it's just too hard to not have him in, especially now they've got no Europe. I think he's going to be really, really valuable again. I actually got Vidra in. Ollie won't like that from Burnley. He'd been on a run, I think 2 or 3 games with a goal, and I thought I'm going to put him in, and he obviously got the goal against Newcastle. We got a bonus point, and he's only about 4.8 million, so happy with that. A bit of a bargain. So yeah, look, overall, not a bad game week, not great, but considering I didn't have Lingard, I'll take those points. And the only thing I'm disappointed with in my lineup as well is not having Martinez in goal, because he'd have had an extra couple of points. So yeah, that was a bad move.
Yeah, it's good to see someone else join the Salah union for the week, and Vidra is definitely a brilliant shout. I know you said it midweek, he's brilliant for that, just a third position of striker on your bench, or if you're going to play him some weeks, because him and Chris Wood have both been doing the business for Burnley up top, so they've actually been quite prolific in recent weeks, and they're forming quite the partnership. But we'll move on now to your team, Jack, and you were saying how perfect your week was outside of FPL, and it was a pretty decent week for you inside of FPL as well, with 58 points, which is 17 above the average. So where do you think you went well this week?
Yeah, straight away it's with Lingard. I put him as my vice captain. With KDB not playing because of the European kind of fixtures they're going with. Lingard steps up and delivered, mate. He's obviously flying. When he scored, I think he's bagged 2 goals. Man on fire. So he delivered 28 points and kind of carried the team. Even Veltman got me 6 in there as well. Son bagging against United, and Mason Mount stepped up as well. And even Brewster contributed with his 1 point for this week, but Martez in goal kept me up there. So I used 2 transfers which I'd rolled over with from the previous week, so that worked out nicely, not having to spend any points for once. I hadn't taken a hit this time, which was nice change for me.
Yeah, and speaking of transfers of last week, have you got anything in your mind for this week yet, or not really?
Yeah, I already made my moves quite early on in the week, actually. And then I've just obviously realised now, after just being informed by the Guru, it's FA Cup weekend for Leicester. So I brought Eliots in for Leicester, put him in up top with Kane. So yeah, I brought him in, and obviously that's now not looking too good if he doesn't make it through the weekend. Is it on Tuesday night? Has it been rearranged for the Leicester West Brom? Is it Tuesday or Wednesday? Do we know? No one knows.
I'm not too sure.
I think it might be a Wednesday. Or it depends when if the Leicester Saints game's tomorrow night, then I think the Leicester game will be Tuesday night in England. So they'll have a couple of days.
Couple of days to rest up, so hopefully that he gets through that all right, and he's taken that spot. I think I took where is he? I took Antonio out because obviously he's taken a knock, so I took Antonio out and brought that down because obviously Leicester's fixtures going ahead. The fixture difficulties. You got 4 greens according to Fantasy Premier League with West Brom, Palace, Southampton, Newcastle, and he's a man on fire as well, isn't he? So I brought him in, and then I've also taken Struick out from Leeds. I brought Connor Cody in as well. So Cody's in for the next couple of weeks because Wolves fixtures look all right and they're not looking too bad. So yeah, 2 transfers for me this week, lads.
Yeah, I'm sure you can find solace in the fact that I've got Iheanacho in as well. So if he doesn't play, we can suffer together. But we'll go back to the Guru. Sorry, I didn't ask you when we were going through our teams. Have you made any moves this week, or are you going to do the infamous rollover?
No, I'll definitely be making moves. I think I'm going to do something a bit unusual, and that's take another hit. Back-to-back hits. Obviously, I really want Lingard, but I'm gonna resist it for a couple of game weeks. I'm gonna go with the same as you boys. I think I'm looking at Iheanacho from Leicester. I need to get Che Adams out of there, so hopefully he survives the FA Cup semi-final, and then it doesn't leave me with too much money in midfield. And you're not going to believe this one. I'm going to get rid of Gundogan finally. He's leaving my team.
Can't believe it.
It's
That's absolute heartbreak.
It's a sad day, and I've got a couple of players in mind. I'm looking at either Martinelli from Arsenal, who scored in the last game week. He's 4.9 million. I think he's going to be. He's got a lot of potential. And then one a bit outside the box. I'm looking at Podence from Wolves. He grabbed an assist last week. Well, the goal was disallowed, which it was wrongly disallowed against Fulham. He grabbed the assist. I remember early on in the season, he got a couple of goals against Chelsea and Arsenal. And Jack just mentioned Wolves have got good fixtures. I think trying to find one of their attackers that's going to start is could be handy. He's 5.3 million, so I got my eyes on him as well.
Yeah, don't mind that at all. And we'll just go back to Iheanacho. Everyone's thinking about him because I've just checked, and he is the most transferred in player so far this week. So everyone that hasn't bought onto the hype is doing it now, with Lingard as the close second for transferred in this week. But we'll move on now to your team, Dave. Salah, 49 points this week. It's not a bad score at all. It's above the average. So, Ollie would be happy with that. He'd take that as a win for the week. And just looking in goal for you straight away, just brilliant start to your week by looking at it. But where do you think you went well?
I know there's a little tactical move. I actually bought him in this week and put him straight on the field, thinking that he would probably outscore Martinez just based on matchups and who they're playing. But it worked out for me because between him and Lingard, they were pretty much more than half my score. So they pretty much saved me this week. But yeah, I've made 4 changes coming into the next game week because I'm sort of just hitting that average, and I've sort of been stagnant around that 50 mark in the league. So I need to make some moves to try and go up a little bit higher, I suppose, with only a few weeks left.
Yeah, definitely. It's the time to start making moves in the season. If it's ever been time to do so, it's now to boost your way up the mini league. And I'm definitely one that's going to be looking to do that in the upcoming weeks. So I've realised this week I've still got my bench boost wildcard and triple captain to play. So I'll be using one of my chips this week. I've gone with the triple captain and I've put it on Harry Kane. And I'm hoping that he does the business for me. He's got a good record against Southampton, if my memory serves me correct. But I'm just hoping he doesn't get rotated out and he plays both games. And as Matt was saying, it's all about just surviving the games. And if he gets injured in one of them, that'll be absolute heartbreak for me. But I'm going to back him in and see if he can do it for me. And fingers crossed he can do so. But I've got no idea what I'm going to do.
I'm with you in there, mate. I've triple captain Harry as well.
So
so Statman. There you go.
I looked at it and I just didn't see a better time, and I was just because you always favour the 2 fixtures, and I was like, there's not really going to be a better time for me to play it, so I might as well do it this week. If it pays off, it pays off. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And yeah, fingers crossed for us 3 now that it does pay off. And
he's got Southampton as well, so he's got one easy game in there if he plays that one.
Don't jinx it, Dave.
Yeah, don't do the FPL curse. But
what do you reckon, Guru? What do you reckon to that? The triple captain shout? Do you think it's a good time?
Yeah, like if I still had it, I would probably use it on one of Kane or Son. They've both got good records against both these teams. Kane's got a good record against most sides anyway. I've obviously used mine on a previous double game week with Kane, and he only got, I think, 8 or 9 points from that double game week, and that was against Fulham, Burnley and Fulham. So
yeah, it was a big hype week, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, to be honest, if you've got it to play, I know there's going to be another double game week potentially in game week 35, game week 37 as well. And you'd be looking at potentially a Man United double game week in that 37, depending on how these semi-finals go, because the way the fixtures go. So there could be some times there, but to be honest, it's a pretty good one to have. Maybe the only thing could be if we lose to Everton in the morning, then might rotate him out for the Saints game knowing the League Cup finals on that Sunday. So, yeah, that's probably the only risk, but I'd probably do it if I had it left as well.
Yeah, that's the worry for me. The big final in the following weekend, if he's going to play both, does that put him at risk for that game? But we'll just have to wait and see. But even if he comes off the bench, he's been prolific this season. So fingers crossed he can get on the score sheet. And in Ollie's absence today, we will go through his team. Same as you, Dave. Oh, sorry, not same as you, Dave. 59 points for Ollie this week. And as you can see straight away, he's got the man that everyone had, Jack, Stuart Dallas. Other than you and Dave, it seemed everyone had Stuart Dallas, and Lingard sort of just carried their teams. As Dave said in his, Lingard and Johnson made up half his score. For a lot of people, Lingard and Dallas made up half their score. But he's not done too bad this week, has he, Jack?
No, he's done right there, and like I said with Dallas, he's carried it in there, and he even had Lingard with his vice, just in case Harry didn't make it. But it's lucky that that wasn't the case. Otherwise, he would have smashed us this week, wouldn't he?
Would have blown it out of the park, mate. Yeah. I believe he got Jota in for this game week, so he'll be a bit disappointed with that transfer, Matt. But do you think he's going to be a very important one for Liverpool's favourable running?
Yeah, I think he'll be good. He's definitely got good value. I don't think he started the game against Madrid in the week either. So I know he come on towards the end. He's probably going to be a bit fresh. But yeah, I think he's a good budget option if you don't have that Salah coverage. So yeah, he's definitely worth a look.
Definitely one that I definitely had my eye on, and a lot of people have had their eyes on for a couple of weeks now. And we'll just check up on how the mini league is doing. Tom Stones is still in first. I don't think anyone's going to knock him off his porch this season. And we've got me in 7th, Ollie just behind me by 6 points. It is in 8th, I believe it was a couple of points before auto subs, because I think Ollie had 2 people come on for him, and it was looking very, very close. The Guru's in 13th, so he's just missing out on that top 10 spot at the moment. And then I think Jackson's had the top 30, isn't he, when I was checking before?
I think just a bit lower, about 36. Yeah, 36. Just behind James. Just behind James in there.
Oh.
That's a bit of a rivalry there.
Yeah, that's a potential rivalry on the cards there.
Yeah, I've got to kind of catch him up, and I think Josh, who's in 24th as well, who's one of our supporters, and he's been as a guest. He's in 24th, so I'm trying to keep up with him as well, because he was doing really well. Werner, she wrote, but yeah, it's Elliot and Craig. It's ridiculous. You're 7th and 8th. That's absolutely ridiculous. You two are next to each other. Unbelievable.
Yeah, we'll be very.
It's probably down to
it's
probably down to you copying each other's team though, in each week. It makes sense.
Well, he's not on this week, so he's not going to get all the good advice that we're going to be giving out. So he's going to be at a disadvantage, hopefully. But as you can see, there's a lot of arrow movement in that top 10, top 20 sort of thing. So it's all shaping up for the end of the season. It's going to be a photo finish, I think, for that top 10.
Tom Southworth, he's dropped down a few points as well. He only got 28 this week. He's been performing so well as well.
We say it a lot. The people that we've had on and sort of like as guests and stuff, they just sort of fade away, don't they, after joining that top 10? Yeah. So it might well be a curse. But someone who hasn't had a bad week this week is the manager of the week, Naveen Puranik, with 80 points, who earns the $10 Esports Live gift voucher, where he can play for cash pool and prizes in PES, FIFA, Rocket League, and NBA. And we've talked about Dallas a lot on this podcast. We might as well call it the Dallas show at this point. But he had Iheanacho as well, Lacazette and Lingard making up most of his points, and then Salah as his captain. And we look at his bench; he even had Semedo and Ben White on his bench. They both got him 9 points. So that's absolutely insane.
Yeah, wow.
Absolutely insane. Which he got very unlucky with the Cresswell option. Obviously, Cresswell went off injured, so he did play, and then close with the auto sub there, but not quite good enough for him. But that was that's a brilliant week for him, and it could have been so much better. He nearly could have broken into the top 100 there. Sorry, 100 points there if he had done a little bit better. But that's a brilliant week from Naveen Puranik, who earns this week's Manager of the Week award. So we'll move on now to the information part of the podcast. We've got the Guru section from Matt Day. He's back on this week. He's not on the move like he was last week. He's got his differentials, his 3 teams to back, and his captains. Take it away, Matt.
Yeah, thanks there, Elliot. And not on the move this week. Ones to watch. I think there's a couple of surprises in there. I think the first one, though, is not going to come as a surprise to too many, and it's Jared Bowen. He's got 2.4% ownership, which is a surprise. Really, really low ownership. He's only 5.9 mil. Really, really good alternative to Jesse Lingard if you don't own Lingard. Currently playing as a centre forward for West Ham with Antonio out. Newcastle away. He's got 26 points in his last 3 games. So definitely look at him if you want that West Ham coverage. A second one, and Jack will be pleased with this one. Connor Cody, because I know that Jack's obviously mentioned that's one of his transfers. Home to Sheffield United, he's got 6.8% ownership. So it's a really, really low ownership and a good avenue into that Wolves defence this week. Guaranteed to start as well. And he's a bit of a set piece threat, and he does like a bonus point. So definitely get on him if you're after a Wolves defender. A third one, Pulisic, a player I really, really rate. Back in the Chelsea lineup, he's injury-free. Okay, you've got the gamble of the FA Cup this week, but 2.4% ownership for a player like that is just nothing. 15 points in his last game week. If you can get the insight that he's going to probably get the start against Brighton, then there's definitely points to be had there. And another one that Jack's going to like here as well as a differential is going to be Paul Pogba. He's got 2 returns in his last 2 games. 1.6% ownership, and home to Burnley, which on paper's a game you'd expect United to win comfortably. He's been looking really sharp. He did play well against Tottenham last week, and he's one of those that when he's on it, he does get the odd big score. So definitely look out for him. 1.6% ownership is next to nothing. And then another one, I'm going to have to pick an Arsenal player here. Home to Fulham. Fulham looked a bit out of sorts lately. Not picking up the results that they were before. And I'm going to go with Martinelli, who did score in his last game out against Sheffield United. 4.9 million as a midfielder and 0.2% ownership. So very, very low. And he come on, I think, for the last 10 minutes in the Europa League last night. So definitely looks like he's going to start in that front 3. Aubameyang's also been in hospital. I think he got diagnosed with malaria this week. So obviously unfortunate. So Martinelli's likely going to come in and take his place there. 0.2% ownership. Real high hopes for him from an FPL point of view.
Yeah, and he's one that you alluded to that you might be bringing into your own classic team. He's definitely one that's going to shoot you up the mini leagues, hopefully, for the last couple of weeks. And that's some brilliant differentials there. I'm also a massive fan of the Jared Bowen shout as much as he's playing my team this week. When players play as a striker or as a midfielder, it's just bang for your buck. So we'll move on to your 3 teams to back, and there's not many surprises here because a couple of them play for the teams that your differentials are. But who have you gone with?
Yeah, there was a lot of good fixtures on paper this week. Obviously, we've got the double game week with Spurs, which I thought might put them into the 3 teams, but I've not gone with them. I've gone with West Ham, obviously on good form, playing against your team, Elliot, Newcastle, who very patchy form and a lot of poor results this season. So had to put West Ham in there with Lingard's form and Bowen's form. So they're definitely one. A second one's going to be Wolves. They've not had the best form this season either, but I think anyone playing Sheffield United at the moment is worth a look in. Wolves got a nice win against Fulham last time out as well. I think there's a lot of points to be had in that game from a Wolves point of view. And then the third one, I know they had the Europa League game, last night at home. It's going to be Man United at home to Burnley. I think it's hard to look past United this season. And those types of fixtures, they've been good this year. A lot of good assets in that game as well. Rashford, Fernandes, Pogba, who I mentioned. That's my that rounds up my three teams.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the Man United options there. There's a lot of attacking assets that will probably do the business for them this week. But we'll move on to your captains now, and you've definitely alluded to a couple of them so far. But who have you gone with?
Yeah, look, I think the number one captain this week, and everyone's going to probably be doing the same. You've all mentioned him as your triple captain. Is going to be Harry Kane. So Kane's definitely a big captain shout this week. Bruno Fernandes, though, you can't dismiss him. It's been a while since he sort of had a really big score. And this could be the perfect chance for him to come out and get a big score, like he's done in previous game weeks. Lingard's another one. Obviously helped Jack out last week as his captain. I think he's another big captain shout. Seems to be getting 2 goals as an average per game, so he's a big shout. And then I'm going to put Lacazette in there. Obviously been scoring the goals for Arsenal. Home to Fulham, you'd expect another goal out of him. I think he's a really big differential captain shout as well. But he didn't quite make the curveball this week.
So who have you gone with for your curveball then, Matt?
Jarrod Bowen this week. I think 2.4% ownership. The performance he put in last weekend was phenomenal. And if you get him in at that ownership, put him in as captain, and he does well, you're gonna fly up those leagues.
Yeah, and as we mentioned before, when midfielders play as attackers or defenders play as midfielders, it really does help you out a lot because they get the extra points for the goals and stuff like that. So he's definitely a really, really good shout this week. Well, we'll move on to your Scout 11 now. And, it's been doing the business recently. I do check it ever so slightly, a couple of the players that you've gone with and stuff like that. So we'll move on to that now. So what sort of team have you gone with this week? I'm expecting the armband on your man, Harry Kane, and it is. So just walk us through the team.
Yeah, we start from the back. I've gone with Rui Patricio in goal for Wolves. I can really see that being a 2-0 type of game for Wolves, 2 or 3-0. So I've put him in goal. I've actually tripled up on that Wolves defence. It could be a risk. Obviously, it only takes 1 goal to stop it. But, I'm liking that fixture for Wolves. Semedo got 3 bonus points last week. Connor Cody, who we spoke about, big differential, set-piece threat. Luke Shaw with the home game against Burnley. He's involved in a lot of goals this season, Luke Shaw. Gets a lot of assists, a lot of bonus. So, I think that's a pretty tidy back 4. And none of them are involved in FA Cup games, which I think helps. And then going on into midfield, I've done a double up. I think if you've got, your free hit left, this is it's worse than using the double game week. So having the Lucas Moura and Son double up. There is definitely going to be a threat of rotation, but 2 games, it's hard to look past a couple of those players there. And then the other 2 obvious shouts, Lingard, form, and Fernandes at home to Burnley. It's hard to leave him out, so that covers off the midfield. And then I've gone for the front 3, Lacazette, who I'd spoke about before, as a captain option. Harry Kane, captain's armband. Not much else needs to be said there. And then Iheanacho, who we've all spoke about as potentially one of our transfers. Really liking him. I'm liking his form. I'm liking his couple of goals he got last week against West Ham with the bonus as well. He actually took the extra bonus point away from Lingard, which was surprising. So I think that's a pretty strong team.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just going to go to you now, Jack. We've talked a lot about Harry Kane as a triple captain shout, and I think it could easily be a mistake here where Son performs this week and Kane doesn't. So are you a little bit worried that Son's going to do the business and Harry Kane's going to be sat there with giving you 6 points?
I think it's just part of the gamble, isn't it? Going into it, you want, Harry Kane. He's just absolutely on fire. Like he's just a guy who scores so many goals, doesn't he? And if you captain Son, you're worried that, and then Kane performs. It's such a big risk. I don't think there's an easy answer. I think you've got to pick one or the other and just go with it. I mean, for me, I'm going to go Kane. Obviously, you two boys, Dave, Nell, you're going to go Kane as well. Son's a good shout. Is more probably of a differential captain shout, if anything. versus that one, but because he's a guy who can definitely assist and score. But Kane's the one, I think, in terms of this. But a strong team as well from the Guru there. I really like that one. I was going to say maybe instead of Semedo, you could have a Saiz as well in the other centre half, because obviously he scores so many goals from centre half. He's looking good, and obviously Moore is on form as well. But it's a strong team. If you've got a free hit, that's a good one to look at.
Yeah, definitely. If you get the triple up of the Wolves clean sheet, then you're going to be off to a flyer straight away, definitely. But it's an awesome team, Matt, and that rounds up an awesome Guru section. So we'll move on now to the final section of the podcast, and it's quickly becoming one of my favourites. It's the draft section, and somehow I'm inside the top 4, lads. I'm making Champions League at this point. We'll get back onto that in a little bit, though, and we'll just go through the results of last week, and Jack's going to have his hands on his face right now. A loss to James Gasden, the rivalry that we talked about before. He's managed to beat you, Jack. So what went wrong for you this week?
Oh, we mentioned that rivalry in Classic, but now it's happening in Draft as well. It was all looking good. Obviously, the Cresswell one did me, and then I chose Schmeichel instead of Martinez in goal as well. So that's my 2 things that went against me. One, a decision on my own, and one that just didn't happen in the game with Cresswell. So now I think it's back-to-back defeats. I think I've had 2 in 3. Yes, a bit frustrating because I've allowed everyone else back into it. But as I said earlier on in the podcast during the year, I did a bit of a challenge. It's getting a bit lonely up at the top there. And Elliot, Ollie faded out and come back in. Then he faded out. He retired. He's I just wanted to mix it up a little bit. But yeah, tough one to take this week with that defeat. Not too happy.
Yeah, just wanted to spice up the competition a little bit, and you have done so with back-to-back defeats. Is that probably the first time this season you've had back-to-back defeats, do you reckon?
I think I had a bit of a bad run in February, but I think it's probably up there with the worst run for a while, and allowed everyone back into it, as we said.
Yeah, it's definitely out of character for you in draft. I saw a routine win off against Peely as I beat him by 16 points. Matt Day, the Guru, doubled Rolando's score and more, so a brilliant week for you, Matt. Is that better than your classic score 63, or was it just under? It was better.
It was better, yeah. I can thank Cavani. Well, kind of not thank Cavani, but also thank Cavani.
Nice pick up, that one. Yeah,
not a bad pick up at all. Definitely for the run-in for the end of the season. And then Dave, are you going to want to talk about this one or not? I'm just looking at it now. A single point, but separated you and Ollie as it was 51 to 52. And they're the fine margins that can lose you this league, unfortunately.
Oh, look, it's 4 losses in a row for me. Ever since I towed up Matty, ever since I beat Matty by about 50 points about 4 weeks ago, it's been all downhill. And unfortunately, the luck that I had with picking Johnson in my classic team, he was sitting on my bench. That was the difference, really, right down there.
Yeah, that hurts.
So,
and you got Chris Wood there as well. That really, really hurts.
Yeah, my bench really performed when I probably didn't need them to. So it was a bit disappointing. And look, the last few weeks I haven't necessarily played poorly, but it's just I've come up against teams that have played well, like Rolando beating me last week.
Shock.
Getting 44 points was a bit of a shock. So, yeah, hopefully I can turn it around with a few weeks to go and get back up, because I've slid down to 5th now, I think. I was 1st about 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, we're just looking at it now, and you're actually, in terms of if it was a classic league, you'd be winning by about 30 points ahead of the Guru. You've actually the highest scorer in the league in terms of total points, but unfortunately it's a head-to-head league for you. So we've got Matt Day, the Guru, in first, who could be crowned the Guru in classic and the Guru in draft. Ollie on his tail, but he's, poor goal difference, we'll call it, from Ollie there compared to Matt. And then Jack, 3 points behind. I'm level with Jack now as well. David in 5th, James in 6th. Peely in 7th and Rolando in 8th. And I think for Peely and Rolando, I don't think they're going to be able to win the league this year, lads, but I'm sure it's going to be close for them. But we'll just have to see. And we'll move on to this week's fixtures. And it's going to be a massive game for you now, Dave, and a massive game for you, Jack, to get back onto your winning ways. For both of you, that's probably just looking at it now, or maybe me and the Guru. But that's
you and the Guru as well.
Two massive games this week that are going to shape up this league. So we just had a look at your team, Jack, before, and we had a look at yours, Dave. So we'll have a look at yours quickly, Matt. And as we said, you did win this week, so it wasn't a bad score from you, and that's a brilliant team.
Strikers, yeah.
Yeah, that's a brilliant team. What's on his bench? He's even got Werner, Laporte, Alonso on his bench. That's definitely going to be a good team shaping up for this week. Not too many Man City assets, which could be a downfall. I've got a lot of Man City assets, so if they can do the business, then that'll be interesting. But you've got Lucas Moura, who was included in your Scout 11, so he could be integral for you. And then Lacazette, who's taken up a lot of talking points on this podcast as well. So I think it's going to definitely be very, very close this week. But we'll just have a quick look at my team. As I talked about, I've got Trent, who keeps doing the business for me. Pulisic, as you talked about in your Guru section, Jota. So I've definitely, on paper, I really fancy my team this week, but we'll just have to see how it plays out. Jack, what's your thoughts? How do you think it's going to go this week?
Ooh, it's going to be a close one. I'll just sit on the fence and go for a draw.
Go for a draw. There's only been one draw, I think, this season, and it was between James and Rolando, as you can see on the screen now. So
I bet that was
probably,
probably
a boring 0-0 of that one. But yeah, Dave, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, it'll be tight either way. I'm thinking, because I think you've still got 3 City players or something there, so probably they haven't necessarily been in the greatest form the last few weeks. Some of those City assets, but if they can fire, then that might be the difference.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And Matt, we'll go to you. Are you confident this week or not?
Yeah, it's all about what Pep does with your City players, mate. Given they've got the semi-final, the league game, and the final the week after. So I'm confident if the double game week goes for Spurs, well, yeah, I'm confident of winning this one then.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Jack and sort of sit on the fence. I don't think it will be a draw, but I'm not too sure how it's going to go. It's going to be a tale of two teams between Spurs and Man City, I think. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a close one. And it's an interesting point you make there about all the Man City assets. They've got a lot of big games coming up. They've got the League Cup final, the Champions League. And I think, we're going to see Pep definitely prioritise the Champions League for one, because he sort of thinks the league's a little bit wrapped up now. But how do you think that's going to affect teams in the upcoming weeks? Because if we thought Pep Roulette was bad now, imagine it in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare, I think. And that's the other thing. He's got an FA Cup semi this week. They've also still got to beat Villa, because if they don't beat Villa and United beat Burnley, then the league's not necessarily done either. So it's definitely going to impact our teams. It's already impacting them now. I've taken Gundogan out, so it's going to be huge. I think if you've got City assets now that have been getting rotated out the last few weeks, and it's time to start taking them out.
They do have a blank game week next week, though.
That's a good point there, Statman. The blank game week as well. So if you're getting them out now, you put players that are playing next week, and you're not missing out on points as well. So that's a good point by Statman.
Yeah, definitely. And when the Guru's taken out his man Gundogan, something isn't quite right. But what that does is that rounds up another brilliant podcast as we previewed game week 32. Let's hope it all pays off for all of us. Jack, how do you think you're going to go this week, mate?
Yeah, I think it's looking all right. I'm quite confident going in. If you get a 50 to 60, maybe even a 70 score, that'd be nice. But if Harry Kane delivers, then we're all going to be laughing, aren't we? If a couple of goals from Jesse Lingard, a penalty from Fernandes, it'd be happy days.
Sounds like a recipe for a good FPL week for you, and I'm sure a lot of managers like me, you and Dave, will be hoping for a Harry Kane masterclass and the Guru, to be fair. So we're all back in Harry Kane this week. But we'll say goodbye for now. Fantasy managers, stay safe, take care, and hope all your FPL dreams come true.